So that's why I referred to it as messy. And I think you have to give yourself permission to be messy. So I will create lots of stuff and it will be very random, but by putting it on the wall or getting out of my head, more importantly, and giving yourself that helicopter view, you can actually start to, that and that link up together, move those post-it notes into that cluster, move those post-it notes into that cluster. And it starts to give you clarity, which builds your confidence, because we can't read our own label when we sit inside our own jar.
Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I'm very excited to have Sally Curtis with me today because we've been having so much fun talking before we hit record. We are not only sisters from another mister when it comes to marketing, but like from halfway across the world too. So that's exciting as well. You love when you meet people who are like, yes, you get it, you understand, yay. It just goes to show you, like, there's just some things wherever you are in the world that are kind of pretty standard with business building and entrepreneur world and all of that. So before we get into how you help people and also your journey to where you got, why don't you give people a little more official introduction to who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, very much so. Thank you very much, Erin. So I'm Sally A. Curtis. I'm a marketing problem solver as well as a content repurposing whiz. Now, I say it that way because I get the opportunity to work with brilliant individuals that are great at creating content. They have lots of intellectual property, and I actually help them to break that down into bite-sized pieces to use on social media, so they can actually help to entice their audience and enroll their audience and engage their audience in a fun and creative way. We do that effectively with visuals and visual tiles, etc. And our agency is best known for turning books into 2 years worth of social media posts. So we have lots of fun and we get to be on a personal development journey every day of the week.
Yeah, that's right. That's it, isn't it? A personal development journey every day of the work. I like how it's every day of the week because mine might be hour by hour. So if you're ahead of me on that one, if I could maintain it for a week, I'd be thrilled, right? No wobbles for a week. That should be the goal. No wobbles for a week. I don't think I could hit that. I don't know about you.
No,
so awesome.
No.
So a couple of things that you talked about in describing what you do that I love, because it just inherently solves problems for entrepreneurs. Because I work on the strategy side of marketing and growing a business, one of the things I hear all the time is, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about. This pressure to every single day come up with brand new content, brand new thing to say. And my background with a journalism degree, that was definitely my complete freak out mode. How am I going to come up with a new thing to say every day? And that's like not how you do this.
No, that's how you cause stress and overwhelm and get fatigued really, really quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's very much about taking your content. I suppose there's two elements to that. Many clients feel that they don't have enough content and they're almost scared to give stuff away, which means they don't actually get into getting content out there. And that's generally because they haven't unpacked their thinking enough. So sort of it doesn't take a lot of time, but it takes a bit of discipline to start that unpacking process.
I totally remember that, because when I first started my business, I think that was one of my big sticking points, right? Like coming up with what to talk about and worrying about not having enough content. And if I give this away for free in my content, what am I going to teach in my program? And if I do this, what am I going to do over there? And now, oh my gosh, like that, I don't know when it happened that it just doesn't occur to me. It's not a thing. I wish I had a better feel for exactly when that teeter-totter tipped the other way.
Yeah.
But it did, thank God.
And it does. And that's the exciting thing. When you hit that threshold and that tipping point, it comes a lot more fluidly. I'm going to be a bit cheeky here. One of the ways that I actually help clients unpack that is to say, just, all that stuff you wish your clients had knew, and I call it the dumbass moment. All those things that you wish your clients would know. If you need to go on that rant and get into that space of, just being gra, I do have a bossy streak. But for me, that bossy streak is natural in me, but that's where I can effervesce with a rant. And, it might not be the content that I really want to post, but it leads me to the content that becomes really valuable to the audience. So give yourself permission to have a rant and, if you just did this, it would be better, or what are the things that you need to know. That's part of the unpacking process. Just have fun with it. Grab some post-it notes, grab a wall or a window, and just capture ideas.
Absolutely. Well, and what that does, that I tell, it's the brainstorming, because if you want to make sure that you have zero ideas, tell yourself, okay, on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I'm going to post on social media, and then do zero prep work and sit down at your desk at Tuesday at 10 o'clock, say, okay, now I need to post on social media. Like, there's nothing more that'll guarantee zero ideas than that type of, like, you have to train. I call it, you have to train your brain to perform on demand.
Yeah.
It doesn't start that way.
It doesn't start that way. And I actually love when you actually get to the point of being able to repurpose your content, because you know what your key topics are and your key words and your key desires of the audience, is you actually do get the opportunity to start to create some of that content in advance, and you actually get to create a library of reusable brand assets. So that's part of, I suppose, what we do and what we sort of preach from that soapbox about saving time and stress and all those sorts of things, is create stuff in advance, so you're not stressed out at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning going, oh my God,
what am I going to say? But it's a massive stress reliever. So why don't people have this? Like, why we can use it? I'm sure between the two of us, we have 8 million personal examples from when we didn't have our ducks in a row. But I think the fact that so many entrepreneurs that I talk to cannot articulate what they do from a way someone would want to digest anyway. They, don't sell nobody buys your process. What's the outcome? They haven't, I call it, they haven't done the work before they go to work. They go out to the networking event, they do random acts of marketing, they do random acts of business, but they've never done the work to decide, what do I do? Who do I do it for? And part of the reason they can't come up with their content is because they haven't put the effort in to what it is they even do for a living.
Yeah, it's very, very true. And that's one of the key elements to creating leverage for yourself and saving a whole lot of time, is actually stop to run. So stop, spend half a day, unpack as much as you can, get somebody to ask you questions. Dig into stuff, just dig into stuff and create a big mess, and then edit and refine.
And I absolutely can say that one of the things that supported my quick success was, once I figured out, this is what I'm good at, this is what I want to do, I've iterated how I talk about it. I've gotten better at how I deliver it, but I haven't changed it. Yeah.
And doesn't it give you so much comfort, and because you've got that clarity? And that's what I wish for everybody when you haven't unpacked it. And my process is not a simple process, because I think rattly, if that makes sense.
Oh, please. Yeah. There's nothing linear. It's weird because I'm extremely organized, but my college boyfriend labeled me the random thought generator. And on Strength Finders, my number one strength is visionary. Yes. So it all just appears and I couldn't tell you why. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I referred to it as messy. And I think you have to give yourself permission to be messy. So I will create lots of stuff and it will be very random, but by putting it on the wall or getting out of my head, more importantly, and giving yourself that helicopter view, you can actually start to, oh, that and that link up together, move those Post-it notes into that cluster. Move those Post-it notes into that cluster, and it starts to give you clarity, which builds your confidence, because we can't read our own label when we sit inside our own jar.
Right. Absolutely. I love how you say that way, because people think that there's something they're not good at, that there's something they should be good at doing and they're not. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you're like a magnificent photographer and I can barely use my iPhone. So why would you feel bad about not being able to do what I do with the marketing and the messaging? I don't feel bad about not knowing how you do what you do. And yet so many business owners and entrepreneurs, they think they're supposed to just know how to do marketing and know how to grow a business, or they don't put it, and then they don't put the effort into learning how or hiring for help.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've touched on a great thing there too, is entrepreneurs as a collective, and using that collective from a collaborative perspective. If you sat down in a room and asked people, hey, what do you see me do? What do you see what my strengths are? What have I said to you that was interesting or intriguing? That in itself is going to create a whole lot of gold and can create the inspiration to go, oh, wow, I didn't know about that myself. Let me explore of that. So it's about being curious, collaborative and curious.
I love that. Collaborative and curious. And most people, I'll volunteer myself in that box, in and out of that box. It feels like a terrifying thing to do. Like, if you survey your clients about what they like, you might find out they don't like something that you're doing.
Correct.
And that's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
But you also can't do a better job if you don't talk to them about it.
Yeah. And that's one of the common things that probably you and I see, is that build it and they will come.
Right.
But if you build it and it's not what they want,
nobody comes because they didn't want it and you didn't ask, right? Nobody comes.
Done that.
Right. People talk with the marketing. I don't know how I came up with this. They're like, well, how do I know who to send to you? And for whatever weird mood I was in at the time, I just said, if your best business buddy is working on creating a $97 course and they haven't made 6 figures yet, stop them and send them to me.
Yeah.
Right? Love what you're learning here and interested in more? Check out conqueryourbusiness.com to get immediate access to all sorts of additional resources and stay updated on our upcoming training events. So how did you get into this? Let's talk about your own journey. How did you land on what it is that you do?
Well, I've been in the personal development industry for at least, I'm going to say 15 years. It's probably a whole lot longer than that. So I've always loved learning. I started out originally putting bums on seats for some very highly successful entrepreneurs that worked across the globe, predominantly from Australia. So I was the bums on seats girl. So I am tarred with the business development brush. That's where the bossiness comes in from.
Got it.
Yep. I then found myself at the front of the room and had to fill my own events. So went on doing what I was doing with the other clients and filling my own events every month with 30 and 60 people in the room. Kept getting asked, what are you doing? Didn't know I was doing anything special, but then started working with other clients, which is where and why I had to unpack what I was doing, because I did not know what I was doing. I was just doing it because it was part of the inner genius.
Right. And when you are working in that's so true. When you are working in your genius zone, not only do you devalue what you're doing because to you it's easy,
Incredibly.
You don't think it's a big deal and you don't know how to articulate it because it just comes so natural.
Exactly. And that for me was the the tipping point of unpacking, what am I doing? Why can I fill other people's rooms? Why do I get people in the room, and all those sorts of things? And that was, I suppose, where I discovered, yes, content, yes, marketing and business development. So having conversations with people, but it was really around using the emotive imagery, because I love storytelling. Don't see myself as a storytelling, but I can help touch someone's soul by creating and finding the right image that helps to explain or demonstrate what I was meaning. So that was part of the process. But in that journey, one of my mentors at the time challenged me and said, "Oh, for God's sake, Sally, you've got enough content for 6 books." And I thought he was mad, because at that time I was a speaker. I didn't like writing, and I still really don't like writing, but happy to speak clearly. And he put me in contact with some of his people, and we did end up writing a book, which we literally repurposed a 45-minute presentation and training manual and turned it into 2 books. I did not realize at the time that I had actually repurposed. I just thought I'd become an author.
You thought you just made what you needed to do a little bit easier than how it felt when you first thought about it.
Correct.
Oh.
And it was 8 years later that I then took somebody's book and turned it into the social media graphic tiles like we do. So as I said in the intro, we're best known for turning books into 2 years worth of social media posts. And again, I did this instinctively, and it was one of my clients, in the early days, that said, "Fantastic, you've just helped me create 2 years worth of content." And I went, "Oh, crap."
Right. When someone says something brilliant, right? When someone says something brilliant to you, grab it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So my business journey has been an evolution of serendipitous moments and great lines said by clients, if I'm honest. I would love to say that this was my intention. I was going to create a content repurposing agency, but it wasn't. I started out as a business development person. I then started doing training workshops, and I still do all of these. And then I was the speaker, and then I was the coach. And then I realized that most of the clients I was coaching had a consistency problem, which was content consistency. And without consistency in business development and marketing, they're not going to get anywhere. So that was where the agency was birthed from, was helping people find leverage and create consistency.
So what made you then, because this is the thing that you did, though, the thing, whether you realize it or not, right? The thing that you did was you kept saying yes to the iteration, as opposed to what so many people do is, I call it throwing good money after bad, or spending time. What made you say yes to the iteration instead of holding on to, for dear life, with both hands, mine,
Yeah. Really good question. I think that probably comes back to the fact, and I mentioned this earlier, that in my very, very early days, everyone's always loved me. I was running workshops, was good at what I did. People got lots of learning out of it. But because in the very early days, when I hadn't unpacked what I actually did, because I didn't know what I did, I was just good at it. So going back to those early days, I remember one of the common threads that would occur when I would catch up with people that I hadn't seen for a while. "Hey, Sally, what are you doing now?" Which to me,
which is different than how is it going, right? Like, it's a different question.
It's a very different question. And it took a lot of that particular question being asked for me to realize, and this was why I mentioned the collaborating with a group of other entrepreneurs. I didn't realize, because I couldn't articulate what I did, nobody else could articulate or understand what I did. They knew I was good at business development, but they actually didn't call it that. They called it networking. So don't see networking,
right? People don't really buy networking advice. So if they think that's what you're good at and they don't know what you offer.
Yeah. And the other thing that they would say when they would refer people to me, because I was lucky to get referrals, it would be, "Go and see Sally. She's a really great connector," which I am. And I love doing that. That makes my heart sing. But there's no money there's not a business around that. That wasn't my business, so it was refining those things. So I think through understanding that people didn't understand what I did, when I was presented with an opportunity of what somebody loved about what I did, I heard it. So I think the ability to, yes, I'm an opportunity hunter, and I'm curious, and I like, going after things, but I think it was more around, oh my God, that's a thing. And yeah, it's taken three times before I might have, really seized it. But it was the, oh my God, that's a thing. And oh my God, that's a thing. So I've moved.
What then? Love that, because I absolutely agree with that. It's iterating based on skill, based on the market, as opposed to, like we said, you didn't build it and they will come, because that's all about you. Instead, you were responding to a need in the market with the thing that you're really good at. So you. But how would you then describe the difference between what it sounds like you were doing, which is inspired action based on feedback, versus change because I tried something for 15 minutes and it didn't work and I wasn't an instant millionaire, so clearly it's wrong, so let's try the next thing? Like, there's a big difference between inspired iteration and giving up because shiny object syndrome.
That's probably going to go back to my employment days, and again, another great question. So I think I'm a product of the collective things that I've done. If I go back to when I was employed, and I remember my ex-husband or husband at the time saying, oh my God, are you changing jobs again? I literally changed jobs every 6 to 18 months. I was never in a job.
You were way worse than me. I maxed out at 3 years. So every 3 years, until I finally found one that stuck, because they let me change what I was doing at the job every year. Right?
Yeah. And I think that for me, that that constantly changing, I picked up lots of skills, but it wasn't, it has now accumulated to lots of things. But at the time, I wasn't seeing how it all accumulated. It was very tick and flick. Whereas I think now that listening, and as you said, that inspired state has actually sort of led to the now where I can actually see where the dots all join, and that's where it sort of come from. Did that make sense?
It does. I have a similar random, I have such a random background in what I did. I've done everything from, plus we are of the age where we started working at like 13 years old. So yeah, I've got a longer work history than I am old. But this is so weird. Like, I was in apartment complex management, leasing agent. I ran a construction. I ran why me? I don't know. I ran a construction department for a real estate developer. Like, I used to know how many BTUs an air conditioner needed to have to keep a conference room for 9 people from overheat. Like, I used to know how much BTUs does a people put off. And I was in corporate, and I had my own franchise, and none of it seemed to have anything to do with each other, but I learned how to grow every kind of business.
Correct. Yeah. And that's similar for me. So I've always been in those business development roles when I was employed. I went on and I built an online business when my son was around, which was around children's craft and gifts. So that's actually where the repurposing started, because that was we used recycled materials and a lot of those things. So that just dawned on me. Had a franchise with my husband, built another helped other people build businesses and turn them around and, move them on. So I've done that, get in, see where the leverage points are, see where I can maximize it. What aren't they doing consistently? Are they speaking to their clients? So I suppose there is repeating threads through there that's brought, me to where I am now. So yes, people refer to me as a marketer, but I'm really probably a problem solver, and I'm actually a business development person, really.
Well, and here's the thing. Leaders, just by definition, your number one job is to solve problems. Like, that's it. You get paid to solve problems.
Yeah.
As a leader of any business, your number one responsibility is to solve the problem. Now, the problem might be, how do I grow the business? Who do I need to hire? Right. But it really is just a series of problem solving. So I think that strategic thinking, along with that learner interest, it sounds like we both had, my mom always made fun of me because once I learned how to do something, I am not interested in it anymore.
Yes. Yeah, next.
Right. Now, what can I learn next? What can I learn next? I used to also be that way with guys, right? Which doesn't, once I kind of figured that one out, don't want to play with that one anymore. So, right, we're going on 10 years and when he does really random weird things, because we joke about that fact, he's like, I just figure I have to keep you on your toes or you're gonna just get bored, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's do one of my favorite things. You kind of shared one already with being able to articulate what it is that you do for folks. But one of my favorite things to do is shorten people's learning curves. Basically, I describe it as if you just don't do what I did, you're already ahead of the game. And most entrepreneurs, when I ask them this, they kind of laugh because it's like the answer is, oh, a million things. But what are some of the things you've done or tried to do that just like failure doesn't work, don't do that, learn from my mistakes? Like, what are the biggest problems?
Oh, I think the biggest thing is definitely consistency. So that's going to be a common word for me. So I'm going to do it this way, is we find a place in which you can create content so you can be consistently. So you remove that stress. So you've got that library of assets, or you've got a support person that can help with that. But don't expect that when you've got that you don't have to speak to people or converse with people. Because you're consistent doesn't mean you get to run away and not interact with people. Tell me, I've tried that, and then you wonder why the business goes, whoa, we've got a lot coming in and it's all done this. Is because you don't, if you're going to be a thought leader, if you're going to be a coach, if you're going to be a consultant or an author, people want to hear from you and they want to interact with you, which means you do need to respond and help celebrate them and not run away and hide.
I say that all the time. Look at your processes, look at your marketing, look at your sales process, look at everything you do, all of the ways you're trying to avoid talking to other human beings. And you're going to convince yourself it's for ease and efficiency, right? Well, so it's easier if I automate it. Yeah, you can tell yourself that, but the truth is, look, I don't have to talk to somebody, right?
Correct. And I think that wanting to run away from people, which was the way I would describe it from myself, was a fatigue caused by something within the business not working. Because ultimately we're in the business to serve people because we love what we do and we love the response and the outcomes people get. But if we get into this, I just need to run away from people mode, there's something that's causing fatigue in there. So who or what can we do to resolve?
It's so true, because I know so many business owners who love like networking because they love people and they love clients because they love people, but they want to remove the people from how to get from the networking to the client. They want to remove the interpersonal piece of that journey and just work on either end of it.
Yeah,
absolutely. So if people want to continue this conversation with you, learn more about how you can help them, all the very, very cool things, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Definitely through LinkedIn and or the website. And I do have a link tree, and everything is Sally A. Curtis. And the website is sallyacurtis.biz, B-I-Z.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much for your ideas and your insights and your personal journey. Appreciate it so much. I love sharing these things with entrepreneurs who are trying to find their way through the same things that we are, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, Erin.